Okay. I also want tips how to get I want tips on how to get off autopilot. My competitive side of me just wants to win and take over. Oh, then like we talked about this earlier. The way to get off of autopilot is to give yourself direction with what you're trying to accomplish. If you don't know what you're trying to do outside of A, win the game, or B, just playing the game, then you're going to autopilot because you're not thinking about anything. The best example I can give you is like, how do you autopilot? How do you not autopilot while you're driving? Well, you think about like who's on your left and who's your right. You think about, I need to stay perfectly in my lane. You think about, I need to be keeping my speed limit perfectly. You think about, I need to be keeping the distance between myself and the next car perfectly. But if you're just driving, then you're gonna end up autopiloting. The only way to improve autopilot is to improve at individual aspects by focusing on those individual aspects. That's fine, I don't mind. But like to avoid autopiloting, you know, besides things like, you know, get enough sleep, make sure that your diet is good, make sure your training schedule is consistent, make sure that you're, you know, getting exercise, is to make sure that when you're in the game, you're actually thinking about something. You're reading, reacting. Is there a link to the Discord? Exclamation mark Discord. Exclamation mark Discord. Can somebody do that? I can't. I literally can't reach my chat. There you go. Thank you. How does May work in Brawl? I hear people talk about the importance of wall, but I think I need insight on how wall should be used. So the reason wall is really, really powerful is it gives you the option to rush the enemy Rhine and kill him. It is the threat of wall that generally does what most works. So in other words, if I'm playing May and you're playing May Reaper, let's say, and you're playing, I don't know, Kree Junkrat, right? It's the threat that I can at any time wall off your Rhine and rush him down and kill him before you guys can kill wall with like a pin, running in there and smashing him, freezing him, shooting him. That's what forces you to respect May. And that's why often people go, hey, heck with this, let's play May, right? And then what happens is you have both teams playing May. Now, when both teams have May wall, so both Rhines have to respect May wall and play a little less aggressively. And what ends up mattering is less of what happens with the May wall and more of what happens on the side. So May wall is still used to force a little bit of aggression on the Rhine, but generally it's not all out bloodthirsty kill, 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 because then the enemy Rhine generally is going to start playing pretty smart. But not only that, the enemy May will also counter wall you. So you rush in, rah, and the enemy May walls you, and then it's just awful. So what ends up happening is in high level Rhine versus Rhine matchups, a lot of the time, especially when there aren't really nasty chokes, May walls will be used for the enemy Rhine to go in and swing, right? To go in and swing. But it's not crazy aggression. It's not like everybody groups up as 6 and literally runs it down the Reinhardt's throat, because it's just not possible to do that if the enemy team hasn't made a counter wall and if the enemy Rhine expects it. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. But the thing with May is if you don't play May, you're gambling on whether they're going to run you down and kick it. People run May to prevent the enemy May from getting too aggressively, is basically how it works. Okay. I mean Zarya in mostly stack Rhine. I overlay him and shield for early bubbles and charge. Once I'm 80 plus charge, I will start to off-angle and flank more, but it doesn't happen often mid-fight. Sometimes I try to start an engagement on the off-angle high ground, but I have trouble gaining charge and effectiveness. Or you have trouble gaining charge probably because your projected bubble usage isn't great. And then obviously, if you're off-angling and they're not focusing you, it can be difficult to get charged with your personal bubble. So I think stacking a little earlier, like you described, is fine, but I would also examine your projected bubble usage. If you're struggling to build enough charge to get on a slight angle, then you're probably doing something wrong with your bubble. So I'd take a look at that. On defending Rialto first corner, for example, should I stack with Rhine 80 charge or take high ground with Kree and right-click so she's been only 20 charge? Yeah, Rialto, the high ground, it's going to be very difficult for you to get charged there. So I would probably play in the corner, build charge, and then don't off-angle behind your Rhine. Off-angle from like a slightly different angle from your Rhine. Like play near the little, so you know, like chat, I'm trying to draw it here. Like the cart pushes across the bridge here, and then you turn the corner, and then you kind of have the choke break here. And you guys know how there's like little pillars on here? Can you guys see those little pillars on here? Your Rhine will probably play this corner right here, hiding from spam, and you can play like right around here. And yeah, at that point, you'll be enough charge to where all you need is a projected bubble and you get 100 charge instantly. But it's totally fine to stack a little bit earlier to get that initial charge by baiting using your Rhine as bait, basically, to get charged with personal. But I would be very curious to see your projected bubble usage and why you're having such a hard time getting charge. How do you counter that when playing Rhine? Well, I mean, remember what we talked about is like Rhines are a lot smarter. It's not, especially with Rhine's additional HP, and how fast they can move while shielding now, it's a little bit harder for you to run down and kill a Rhine behind May wall. May is very good in Brawl Hero, but she's not as oppressive as she once was, for sure. What can you do in a solo queue as a flex support to main tank when no one on the team is doing anything to deny enemy flanks or off angles? It's been really frustrating as I've fallen back towards goal and how little people seem to care about doing anything with these flankers. I'm a bit lost even position. So cover is the big one. Like, you can deny off angles with how you position. So if your team is just not ignoring flanks, tracers on Ashe and high ground, you need a position to where you can still contribute on whatever your team is doing by positioning yourself to where those off angles don't matter. So you remember we just did the on VOD review, you guys in chat, and we talked about how if your team isn't going to go high ground, then you need to play in a location where the high ground doesn't matter. And that's the same kind of logic here. If you are struggling against tracers, if you're struggling against the Ashes and Widows and high ground and the flanks from the Sigma, and your team isn't really fighting that, that's fine, but you should then adjust your positioning to where those don't matter as much. So go over your VODs where you're dying in those situations, being like, is there anywhere I could position better here to avoid it? Like, technically, we should have cleared him out before we rotated, but is there anything I could have done about that? So the thing is like, you have to avoid getting, so this is the problem with educational content, even mine, is you get these expectations of this is how the game is supposed to be played. You go into ranked and it's not played that way. So I don't want you guys getting in this mindset of this is the only way Overwatch can be played. No, you can 6-stack in main and rush it down main. If that's what your Reinhardt wants to do, then you need to support that play. But you need to be able to play in a way that best supports that play, not in the way that's technically supposed to be done. It's like Annas that refuse to push up because the Reinhardt is playing a choke that Coach Spilo said was bad. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not playing Reinhardt for you. If your Reinhardt's playing way up here, then you need to play in a way that supports that. So I guarantee if you look over your replays, you'll find that, man, I could have positioned a little better here to avoid dying to that off angle, and that's what matters. The goal isn't always to be right in Overwatch. It's to make the best decision given the circumstance. You see what I'm saying? It's like life. Like, think about it this way. If you've got a significant other being a turd or being grouchy, they slept on the wrong side of the bed, and they say, oh, man, you left your shoes on the floor, you could argue with them and be like, no, I didn't. Like, you knocked them out when you stood up here, and you're an idiot, and you're right. But, like, is it really that important to be right then? It's not always important to be right. It's important to, like, support the play, That's the idea. Break up with them. Exactly. Instantly. Paul. Hi, what do you think of Soldier and current ball meta comps in the flank, like Tracer, for example, because he's high mobility, good range, self-sustain? I think he'd be abused pretty well mouse, where you can go long silence from high grounds to the flanks like around. So the awkward thing with Soldier is that he is vulnerable to ball finding him. So in other words, if ball Tracer find another ball, the ball can roll away. If ball Tracer find Tracer, Tracer can run away. If ball Tracer finds Sombra, the Sombra can run away. They can't really kill them, right? But the problem with ball Tracer and Soldier is they can kill him. Not necessarily always 1v1, but they can very easily, hey, there's a Soldier by himself there. Let's go kill him. For him to get value, he has to play on angles where ball Tracer can very easily dive and kill him. He is a squishy, and the important thing too is that once he's used his heal station, he has to play like a complete beta until he gets it back again. And then on maps where there's longer sightlines, maybe where you have an easier time scouting those flanks, then you'd be playing heroes like Ashe and Widow, who, yes, they're vulnerable to dive, but they get a lot more done while they're alive. So he's in this awkward situation where he's a little bit more survivable than Ashe Widow, but he does a lot less damage than Ashe Widow. He's a little bit less survivable than Tracer, but he doesn't do that much more damage than Tracer Summer. So it's like, he's like in an awkward situation where he's just very mediocre. He's a very lukewarm hero. Can you ask questions in chat? I prefer not to because I tend to lose track. I'm trying to focus on just in here. And I also want people, if I when I post this video on YouTube afterwards, that people can actually see the questions and not just, because you can read it in chat, but ultimately chat gets lost in Twitch in the YouTube video. What is the most efficient way to use McCree's ultimate? Can you showcase good, bad scenarios? So I don't have any examples right off right now, but McCree's ultimate can either be used to take space or pressure the enemy, or to deny engage, okay? So in other words, if the enemy team starts to push in, you can high noon, and then all of a sudden, they're like, do we keep going? Do we kill him? Do we hide? What do we do now? And they get split in their ideas, and then you kill them. Or you can use high noon to allow your team to break a choke, because again, the idea is that, hey, I'm using high noon, now we wanna run and hide, and you guys get all this space for free. And then if they don't run and hide, they run the risk of getting picked. So like for high noon, it's basically just like you use it for opportunities to break a choke, to hold a choke. Use it. You generally want to use it pretty early, or you can use it in devolved, messy fights in a really aggressive position. So basically, when a fight's starting, McCree's High Noon is one of the most punishing ultimates to misuse timing-wise, because if you use it too early, it does nothing. That's the most difficult part of High Noon. There aren't many bad High Noons outside of, hey, you're just feeding with your positioning, like you're standing out in the middle of the open with no cover, or you don't have a shield, or your teammate, you're not full HP. That's a bad High Noon. Or you do it way too early. So I would say like full HP, safe, you know, there's not like a Widow gonna blow your head off, and then not too early. I think those are the big ones. You stop simping. You guys are shameful. You guys are embarrassing me. I don't want compliments from the trash. Shut your mouth, get your mama's wallet, and send me your credit card information. Okay. Hypothetically speaking, if I were coaching a low mid-master team that had Bastion and one trick, how would you work around his weakness in terms of taking map control? Powers to do is extremely limited mobility. I came up with a theory we could pair him alongside a Sigma. Yeah, that's fine. Pair him up with Sigma and have him split. The thing with Bastion is he generally likes slightly longer sightlines a lot of the time. So you could treat Bastion almost like he's like a budget McCree. He's a McCree in the fact that he is more dangerous if you ignore him, but less dangerous if you pay attention to him. So you can punish sloppy teams. So what I would do is I'd find some sort of pressure here, split your Bastion and Sigma at the same time as your Rhine is taking space, set up in turret form, and mow them down. And then as soon as your Rhine has to back off, or your Sigma shield breaks, or your Bastion starts taking damage, instantly go back, play a little bit more defensive. You know, don't completely abandon the angle, just stay in like sentry form, and then recharge your resources, go aggressively position, and spam them out again. You can play around it. I think your logic here is fine, but against a Tracer, that's going to be rough, because you can't stack main as Bastion very well, because Bastion, especially a Bastion, because Bastion, if you stack main with Bastion, you hide behind a corner and Bastion has to leave turret form instantly. Like, it's completely wasted. So Bastion is ironically one of the worst heroes to not flank with, because he's so immobile that he needs a flank to where it's really hard for the enemy team to hide from him, if that makes any sense. Trash recognizes trash. Oh, shut up. Okay. How often should self-VOD review be done after each game? No, I don't think every game. I mean, it's really up to you. Like, when I say self-VOD review in terms of like taking 45 minutes to an hour or 30 minutes to like really review a game in detail and take notes, and really, maybe once, twice a week, even that. But in terms of like, hey, let me just look at this replay really quick. Like, I'll take 10, 15 minutes and just, you know, like quickly study this replay, see if there's anything interesting. I'm trying to like figure out my Hanamura defense here, or maybe was my ultimate usage good there? I wonder about that. You know, you're in between queues or whatever. Then yeah, you could do 5, 10 minute, 15-minute reviews every day. Like it's just easy peasy. It's free real estate. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of like actual studious, really working hard, unless you're like a pro player, and even then, you don't need to be VOD reviewing for like every single day. Those could happen once every week or every couple of weeks. You think odds are? Yeah, I think odds is a routine right now. Yeah. What are possible counterplays against Rally? Kite it. Kite it, or do so much damage before they have Rally that by the time they get Rally, they're already low. Rally is rough, man. Rally is really rough. Kite it and keep them at arm's distance. Rally doesn't do anything if they're at arm's distance. I mean, that's not true, but it does very little. But there's not many counters to Rally. I mean, okay, the one counter Rally is if you have like Grav Dragon. Like, not Grav Dragon, but like Grav combos, because it just burns through it anyway. Molten Core, that's not bad. That's not a bad ult to use against it, for sure. Anything that like slows down their aggression or just does so much damage that it just doesn't even matter if they're rallied or not. Diva Bomb, sure. Yeah, kill Brig, obviously. Yeah, come on, guys, just kill the Brig. If I'm good at the game but not god at the game, I might even cut out to coach players. Yes, you are. What's the minimum requirement you can get started on the process to help you? I'm really motivated, extremely confused. This game is very complex. You can coach like legit, like in your, as long as you understand how the game works and you spend time studying it. Like, your personality, your ability to communicate, and your ability to study the game outside of playing it is what's preventing you from being a good coach, not your rank. I climbed from silver to GM, and I learned basically nothing that helped me coach. The climb itself, in terms of like the most valuable thing I learned was like personal like discipline and learning like how important it was. But I didn't learn, like, I learned a couple of like little tricks and tips as on and Zen, but I could have picked up those tricks like just studying videos and studying VODs. Yeah, you should be fine. But you really have to time trial and error, but you really have to be self-critical. The hardest thing for a coach is to get feedback. That's the hardest thing as a coach, whether you're a stupid stream coach or whether you're, you know, you're actually coaching a team or players or whatever. Yeah. Like, you have to put basically as much time as a player, but it's a lot harder to figure out how you'd be putting that time. Okay, is it possible to climb while one-tricking a support? Yeah. When I try to one-trick Ana, it feels impossible because there's so many places where Ana's not good. There's not that many places that Ana's not good. Ana is ironically one of the most flexible heroes in the game. I can't, like, Tracer's really flexible, Ana's really flexible, Brig is pretty flexible, Sigma, Zarya maybe, pretty flexible, Ryan's pretty flexible. Yeah, if you feel like Ana's not good, then you're not good at Ana, no offense. My team is playing a Sig comp, the enemy team plays dive, the enemy's playing double shield, Ana's fine into dive, like, you have nade and sleep, like, what are you gonna play? Like, Brig, Moira, like Moira's so low value that surviving is not good enough against dive. Ana's great against dive. Double shield, yeah, but shields break nowadays, so like there's no excuse not to be getting sleep nade value against double shield. If you pick what's best run in your comp, you climb quickly. But yeah, but the climb is short lived until you get to the point where it's like, hey, I suck at these heroes that I'm flexing to, and I don't enjoy them either. Yeah, you just need to get better. You need to get better. One tricking any hero is good enough to get to like masters. And after that, heroes like Bash and Doom, Junkrat become a lot harder, but still possible. But heroes like Ana shouldn't have any problems, especially in this current meta. Maybe at like previous double shield metas, like over a year ago when Sig had like a 1400 HP shield. But it's, yeah, no, not right now. Okay. What tips do you usually give the Ryans that fail hitting the shadows, and how do I block shadows more? I mean, don't be greedy. Don't try and get 6 don't try, like, here's the goal. Chat, don't shatter the enemy Ryan. Shatter the enemy Ryan's team. That's the goal. Block shatters more. Know that he has shatter and anticipate the shatter. Don't be surprised when he has shatter. And then when it comes to you hitting shatter, don't care. Don't shatter the enemy Ryan. Shatter his team. If there's an Ana split, shatter the Ana. If there's a Zarya split without bubble, shatter the Zarya. If there's a Diva split, shatter the Diva. If the ball is right in your backline and out of ball form, so you can shatter him without him like rolling away, shatter him. Don't be greedy. Just shatter. Shatter is, you get 1 kill with shatter, easy. I was someone said something along the concept of IGL is outdated. The answer asked, what's your opinion on that? I think it's mostly right. Yeah. I think like IGL is like something that's like incredibly important, but like as teams get better and better and better, in other words, like as you get to like really top tier teams, like you just have to have everybody talking. Like you just can't not have people not talking. Like you can't have everybody talking at once, and you can't have people, for example, like I don't want every single player screaming stuff all the time. But in terms of like calling, if you have a plan or an idea, a successful team's individuals, there can't be an individual that doesn't say, I want to do this. For example, if your Ana has nano and nobody has a plan to do with the nano, if your Ana isn't able to speak up and call like what they want to do with nano, then that's a serious problem. Now I'm talking top rank Overwatch League contenders here. But yeah, the concept of an IGL controlling everything is definitely outdated. Yes. I just played games on Honeymoon Volskaya where the defending team played spam and helps every angle very well. It held every angle very well. I feel like 90% of my games are ball based, so I feel like out of my element, I don't know what to do. What are some ways to attack the situation? Tried to play ball, take them off high ground, but I felt like it just fed. I mean, you could take the play ball and harass the high ground as your team is walking through the choke for sure. But honestly, without knowing the details of the situation, it's really hard for me to answer. But yeah, you would want to distract or deal with the high ground, either with Diva Matrix, getting through the choke and clearing the high ground with Ryan, which obviously that's hard, easier said than done with how much damage they probably had, or, ball, go behind them, try and boop them off of high ground. But obviously the situations like that it sounds like you don't play ball. So you probably fed, even though you made the right call because you're just bad at ball. That's the problem. What are some tips you would give to new coaches? Work hard, prioritize like good macro understanding of compositions and basics. And don't try, like, the unfortunate thing with coaches is sometimes you feel like you have to impress your like players or people that you're coaching with like all your little micro feedback, but so much of the game is just having a good plan and knowing the basics and good positioning and stuff like that. So work on understanding the basics really well and work on your communication. Be open and look for feedback too. Like if you coach anybody, always be asking and looking for feedback constantly. I don't ask you guys for feedback because I don't give a rip about what you ask or what you guys feel. Okay, what are some good chunks you can break angles into as DPS? Like how there's, as in finding one thing to improve at a time. I mean, I don't know, like just experiment. Like I wouldn't even chunk angles up more. Like I wouldn't chunk angle that much. Like if I'm coaching a Widowmaker, I'm not going to coach the Widowmaker to work on controlling soft angles and then work on controlling hard angles and then work on going hard flanks. Like you just need to start thinking about your angles. Like that's it. Like you just decide whether I should go hard, soft, or not, or not at all. Like I don't think like now we're basically like splitting. We're taking a like. We've got a big pumpkin pie and we've cut the pumpkin pie in half and we cut into cores and the 8ths and the 10ths and 14ths and 116ths and like the tiny little 10 pieces. No. Positioning, in other words, how I should angle as a DPS, that's just something that you should just be thinking about. That's not like constantly. Should I split hard? Should I split fast? Should I go here? Should I go there? And just like you're gonna scuff it up for a long time, but keep trying, keep giving yourself feedback. Okay, I shouldn't angle there because they've got dive, it's too far. Okay, I tried this angle, that worked out pretty well. Okay, wait, they had a Widowmaker, so that's not gonna work. Just as long as you're playing a single hero. The problem with angles with DPS is gonna become when you're playing angles as Widow, and you're playing angles as Tracer, and you're playing angles as Genji, and you're playing angles as Doom. If you're playing like 4 different DPS heroes, all with completely different playstyles and trying to angle differently with all of them, then that's gonna be problematic. So if you're trying to break it into chunks, make sure that you're not playing like a million different DPS heroes and then just work at those. But I honestly I don't know how to describe this as easy as I can, but like you shouldn't be segmenting this. This shouldn't be a goal. Take more aggressive angles. Like it should just be to take angles. And if they're aggressive, if you can't, not aggressive if you can, and be able to like make the decision on whether you should go aggressive or not. You should look at the composition, look at the situation, and make that decision. If it fails, go review it and figure out why it failed. You literally made us give your feedback on a Google Doc like a month ago. That is legit false. Heresy. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I'm 232.5 at the moment. I start McCree Soldier Bait. My aim is really good. My decision making is bad. Is there any tips to provide impact Soldier McCree? I'm subtle plug here. I have a McCree VOD that is in process right now that I think might be impactful for hit scan players. It's a Genji Cree VOD. But I threw it. It was on Ilios. So if you can find the Twitch VOD before I release the YouTube VOD, you can give it a check out. But I think that will help you with your Soldier as well. But honestly, I have no idea what you need to improve on. So if you feel like your decision making, probably positioning is bad, then probably the VOD will help. Hey Spilo, a Sig, how do I know when to off angle, when to help my team on main? I love controlling angles to Sig, but a lot of times when I get any value, the aim destroys my team on main. Then you're probably splitting a little too far, or you're mistiming your pressure. I would recommend, like I just did a Sig VOD today, talking about if somebody who was splitting way too far as Sigma. And so, yeah, he was not in a position to actually punish the enemy team in time. It took too long. And the thing with Sigma is a lot of people, in a lot of situations, will get this advice and they'll be across the map. You still want to be around your team, but angled in a way to apply pressure at a slightly different angle. So again, without replays, without screenshots, without context, it's impossible for me to answer this question completely. Great educational content, thank you. I love DPS, mostly hit scan, but I'm always to get discouraged with my aim despite putting some real hours to Kovacs. Well, there's your problem. I mean, Kovacs is helpful, but go into workshop modes or go into your deathmatch modes like the gun game or like tryhard. Tryhard is like instantaneous respawn now. Like you get so many repetitions and like FFA now, it's unbelievable. I noticed a difference after a while when I play Kovacs, but I don't have a lot of time putting into co-op games. Kovacs, let's do Kovacs between Q games. Well, there you go. Just do Kovacs or your ranked tryhard between Q times. Bingo. I've noticed a difference though recently when taking offense, but I end up going against another hit who maybe outduels me something. I shy away from taking those duels. For example, I say I die to the enemy Widow tries, I get away in my head about it, assuming the aim is better. I mean, the goal is to, like with Widow duels, for example, is like your position gives you an advantage in the duel. So if you're scared of taking duels, then that's fine, but you then position yourself, just out position the enemy Widow. Like I coached, who was it? Wraithen several months ago. Like one of the first couple of reviews I actually did with the team over in like September, and it was him versus Lethal, and Lethal was just doming him on Widowmaker, like he was just doming him. And I literally went through, and I think it was 10 out of the 11 duels with Wraithen and Lethal were literally Wraithen just being stupid, just Lethal outbraining him over and over and over, and outpositioning him, outbraining, outbraining. And I sat there with Wraithen, and I'm like, listen. Your mechanics are fine. They're good enough. You're not even getting a chance to show your mechanics because you're constantly losing the chess match. So in your instance here, you're getting out deleted by the Widowmaker, but I honestly question, like you should go back and go like, did I have the element of surprise in that Widow? Did she know where I was? Was I in a better position than that Widow? And then that's where you need to start. And if all of those check marks are there, I had an advantage, I had a better position, she didn't know I was there, and you still lose, GG, go next. How else are you going to get better if you don't lose a bunch of duels? So, I also realize that my crosshair placement is a bit better than I think it is, and I panic, I flick off the target, shoot. Yeah, it sounds like you're all up in your head, bro. All up in your head. The best way to get all out of your head, again, I'm not the person to be asking this, but I can give you a little advice, is to stop worrying about this crap. Like, forehead, obviously, but like, focus on something else. Focus on literally cheating on the duel. that you're going to play as dirty and you're going to have every advantage before the duel even starts. And if you get the kill, great. If you don't get the kill, it doesn't matter. Go next. You should be putting so much focus on whether you should be thinking about, am I taking the right position or not the entire time? And then if the duel happens, it works great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. And then if you lose, you instantly go back. Okay, shoot. Could I have played that better? Could I have positioned that better? Then you instantly go back and assume that you choke something with positioning or timing. Don't worry about your mechanics. Do not even think. You can't control your mechanics, so don't think about it. Outside of obviously your training. Okay. Lately, my comp game group of 6 in Plata started tracking our results on maps. There are certain maps in Nubis where we're really struggling. I'm not sure why. VOD reviewing a comp group. That's fun. I would look at like what compositions that you guys run in these maps and see if like they're struggling, because these are like, this is like longer range map, spammier. Like these are all maps that are like good for like spammier style heroes. So maybe you guys are running comps that aren't as good into spammier style heroes, in which case you guys need to figure out like either what comp swaps you want to make or how you need to be playing better into spam. You should also look at like what compositions that you're losing against. Is there a specific hero or two or types of heroes that you guys are losing to on those maps? It might not be map related, it might be hero related. So keep an eye on that. High grounds as well, yeah. Okay. As a Lucio, I feel like there are no ton of guides and reviews out there as well. A lot of supports. True. Most support reviews say they apply to every support, but I feel like Lucio's a lot of scenarios plays very differently than any other support. Both positioning and general levels of aggression. True. In terms of positioning, how does Lucio differ from other supports? What I can take from guides from other supports? Okay, so to be honest, like most Lucio guides are complete horse manure. So I wouldn't even bother with other Lucio guides. Like this is where there's a few heroes that I'm going to plug myself on. I'm going to plug myself on Doomfist. I'm going to plug myself on Lucio. I'm going to plug myself on like Reinhardt and stuff like that. There's most honor reviews are going to be fine. Most Zen reviews are going to be fine. Most probably even like Genji reviews are probably going to be okay. I think obviously I feel like I do a better job because that's me. There's ego there, obviously. But I definitely think I have a different niche when it comes to those heroes. So, but in terms of like actually answering the question, in terms of positioning, how does Lucio differ from other supports? So the difference with Lucio positioning is like, you have to be on the wall. You prioritize almost a wall more than cover. So getting off the floor, and the reason you're on the wall is because the thing that makes Lucio tricky is unlike other supports like BAP, Moira, not Moira, Moira is a terrible example. Zen, Ana, Brig, though all of those heroes have impact away from where they're actually positioned. So you play in your cover corner and you could just impact all over the battlefield, basically. The difference between that and Lucio is Lucio's impact is limited. So Ana can position here and impact stuff over here and over here and over here. And same thing with BAP and Zen and Brig, obviously to some lesser and greater extent. The thing with Lucio is you're here, you can impact here, you know? So you have to actually move yourself to here to assist here, right? Which is why when you're on the wall, it's better a lot of the times, and that's why wall riding is important, because if you're needed here, you can quickly get there if you're on the wall, or if you're good at wall riding. If you're needed here, you can quickly get there if you're on the wall. So you're a very, very short range support. Even Brig gets a lot of value with armor packs without actually physically being there. You don't. You've got a stupid short range gun for the most part, an aura, and a boop, all of which are all shorter range. So like you focus on positioning on the wall and position yourself where your value is needed. If there's a duel happening on a flank, help the duel. If the enemy Ryan is like pressuring your front line, disable the enemy Ryan. I highly recommend like positioning yourself in a way and looking to enable or disable where the map is, like the fights are actually happening. But yeah, you need the reason why the wall positioning is there is because so you can quickly move to where on the map you're needed. I probably have the memory of a goldfish and already talked about this masculine, but you say it is hard to know what you should do as a coach, learn to get better. You need to grind like a player. How do you go about the end of your, how do you go about it by the end of your personal career? What kind of form did you end up with? I mean, get feedback, dude. Like legit get feedback. Assume that you should be doing your VOD reviews better. Self-VOD review your VOD reviews. Like listen to yourself, how you communicate. Listen at like, look at the end of the VOD review and see if like what you're doing was correct. Read coaching books. Ask your players for feedback. Continue to study the meta, take notes. Like getting better as a coach is like flipping hard, dude. It was stupid hard because you're usually in a position of authority and like, yeah, it's rough. So in the path, the pro is like even worse than it is with players. So, yeah, like that, I don't have any strict specific examples. Just get feedback, look for external help, keep on top of yourself. And hopefully you have the drive to like actually, because the positive reinforcement with coaching is few and far between. Is it too simple to say pick a hero that you have fun with or else you'll burn out? I don't think so. I mean, I think it's a little too simple. I think the difficulty with that comes from sometimes a hero that you might not think you might actually like. So in other words, I didn't think I liked Zen all that much, and I put like 5 or 6 hours in him. I was like, hey, this hero's really fun, and so I grinded him. So I recommend all players, especially if they're new, spend some time but playing a lot of different heroes just to find which ones you really enjoy and then grind those heroes. But you definitely try and pick the heroes to grind that you really have fun with. Otherwise, you are going to get burned out. There's a reason why GOAT's meta had so many players retiring. Why, metas that were like Moira metas, or, main support having to one-trick Brig, or you have to play Mei, like heroes that people don't enjoy very much. People don't want to play anymore and they quit. That's kind of what you want to be doing. There are a few heroes that I really enjoy, but no hero that can play for 3 hours a day. Well, then you don't need to play for 3 hours a day. If there's a couple heroes, play those heroes for 1 or 2 hours a day each, and there you go. Play a little Kree, play a little Widow, play a little Tracer, GG's. Play a little Kree, play a little Tracer, GG's. Play a little Widow, play a little Widow, play a little Widow, play a little Tracer, GG's. You don't need to play heroes unless you're like looking to hit literally pro or contenders level. You don't need to do that. I enjoy the variety of Overwatch. Is there a skill set that will allow me to climb? No. If you have like 3 or 4 heroes, you can still play those heroes. That's good enough. Just as long, you just have to understand that if you're a little bit looser with your hero pool, you need to be a little bit tighter elsewhere for you to climb. In other words, if I have instead of 2 to 3 heroes, if I have 3 to 4 heroes of a hero pool, that means my improvement's going to be a little slower, which means I really need to make sure I'm disciplined training every day, getting good sleep, maybe doing VOD reviews a little more frequently than other guys, keeping tight with my goals. So whereas maybe with 2 or 3 hero pools, you can be a little bit looser because the 2 or 3 heroes is just a huge benefit. Or you should just be content to be a plat scrub. I mean, sure. Like, honestly, I don't know. What do you want to do? Do you really want to be grinding hard enough? You can do it, but if you having to be a lot more disciplined with your training because I have a bigger hero pool doesn't really sound attractive to you, then yeah, just be a plat scrub. There's nothing wrong with being okay at the game. If you're plat, you're already better than average. You're already decent at the game. I mean, a plat McCree can still outduel a GM McCree every now and then. Can you imagine that in any other sport? Can you imagine being like you're essentially like, if you're plat, you're basically like a good high school player at the X sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of what you have to look at. You're not a bad player. Read coaching books. Any recommendations? Yeah. Put that message in Ask Spilo, because that's a long message I have to think about. There's a lot of ones. I would recommend a coach that you admire or look up to, and a lot of them have written books, and see if people can get a biography on them. Should Major Midget be put in his place, or is that just a waste of time and effort? Listen, when it's a pest, you either stomp the pest out or you ignore it. If the pest refuses to be killed, it's just ignore it. It just doesn't deserve your time or attention. In the case of Major Midget, it's like, what, the kid's just a goofball. Just let kids be kids. When he's 14, 15 years old and not 12 anymore, he'll probably look back at with regret at how cringe he was. But you know what? It is what it is. Let the fool be answer not a fool unto his folly, like the Bible says. So there's some logic behind that.